What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some tips and tricks for the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G that you might not know about. Now before we go any further, I do want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, and if you want to learn more about this phone, I will be linking to several other videos about it in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and my favorite accessories for it. But with that being said, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to show you is how to change the refresh rate. Now in case you don't know, this phone actually does come with a 120Hz refresh rate, which is definitely impressive for a phone in this price range, and essentially what this is going to do is make the movement on the screen a little bit faster and smoother. So if you're doing something like watching a video or playing a game with a lot of motion on the screen, you're going to get a more fluid experience, and if you're doing something like scrolling or just navigating through the phone, it's going to feel a little bit more premium. But that being said, while this is a good thing, having a higher refresh rate can consume a little bit more battery, so if the battery life is really a top priority for you, you might actually want a lower refresh rate. And luckily with this phone, you actually do have the option to change it back to a standard 60Hz refresh rate. So to do this, what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Display. From this menu, go to Motion Smoothness. And as you can see, by default, it is going to be adaptive. And again, this is basically going to be the 120Hz refresh rate. And keep in mind, it's not going to be 120Hz all the time. It's really only going to be like this when you're doing something that has a lot of motion on the screen. And that way you're going to get a little bit more of a premium experience. But that being said, again, if you want to change it back to a 60Hz display, all you have to do is select Standard, hit Apply, and now it's back to a standard 60Hz display. Now I'm going to show you a cool shortcut we have with the power key. So by default, if you double press the power key, it's going to open the camera. And keep in mind, this works no matter what you're doing with your phone, so even if you're on an app or something like that, again, if you double press the power key, it's going to open the camera right up. But we also do have some other options here, so what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Advanced Features. From this menu, go to Side Key. And as you can see here, again, by default, it is going to open the camera, but you can also have it open pretty much any app you want. So if we go here, as you can see, it's going to give you a list of apps, and you can do pretty much anything. So I'm going to select an app. And now if I double press the power key again, it's going to open whatever app you choose. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Attentive Display. Now essentially, this feature is an alternative to having a longer screen timeout time. So if you're doing something like watching a video, for example, or reading or something like that, where you really don't want your phone falling asleep on you, but at the same time, you still want a reasonable screen timeout time. So that way, if you forget to lock your phone, the display is not going to stay on and drain your battery. So to get to this feature, what we're going to do is go to Settings. From the Settings menu, go to Advanced Features. From here, go to Motions and Gestures. And from this menu, toggle on Keep Screen On While Viewing. And now once this feature is on, the phone will detect your face with the front-facing camera, and as long as you're looking at it, the screen's going to stay on, but if you put it down or something like that, it's just going to use the normal screen timeout time. So definitely great to have if you're consuming a lot of content. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Eye Comfort Shield. This is basically going to tint the screen in more of an amber color, and this filters out some blue light that can be harder on your eyes. So to get to this feature, what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Display, and Eye Comfort Shield is right here, toggle it on, and as you can see, the screen is a little bit warmer, but if you want, you can also customize it even more. So if you go here, as you can see, you can make it more intense or more subtle. And you can also schedule it, so by default, whenever you turn it on, it is going to be set to always on, but if you go here, you can have it turn on from sunset to sunrise or set a custom time. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Dual Messenger. This allows you to make a copy of a compatible app, and this is going to make it a lot easier to log into 2 accounts at once. Maybe not quite as useful as it may have been a few years ago, since certain apps like Instagram and Facebook, for example, now have that kind of feature built in, but there are definitely some apps like Snapchat, for example, where the feature is still definitely useful. So to get to Dual Messenger, what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Advanced Features. From this menu, Dual Messenger is right here at the bottom. And as you can see, this is going to show you all the compatible apps. To get a copy of one, simply toggle it on, and then you'll be able to log into 2 accounts at once. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to turn on the Edge panel. Now if you're coming from another Samsung phone, you may already be used to this feature, but basically in case you don't know, the Edge panel essentially is a little shortcut bar that usually shows up on the side of the phone, but for whatever reason on this phone, it's not on by default, so let me show you how to get it. So what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Display. And from this menu, go all the way down, and Edge panel is right here, so toggle it on. And as you can see, this little bar is right here, probably easier if I go to the home screen. So as you can see, it's right here. To open the Edge panel, simply pull it out like this. And as you can see, here's our shortcut bar. If you want to customize it, you can also hit these lines right here. Go to Edit. You can add whatever shortcuts you want. And if we go back to the Edge panel in the settings, go here. As you can see, you can customize it even more. So by default, it's basically just going to have some app shortcuts. But if you go here, You can add a lot more stuff, including things you can download from the Galaxy Store. If we go back, you can also customize the handle itself, so you can change the color, make it more or less transparent, and even change the size and shape. So there's definitely a lot you can do here, but again, by default, it's not going to be on. So again, you will have to go to the display menu in the settings to enable it. The next thing I'm going to show you is a quick way to turn your screen on and off. Now, some phones have this activated by default, but for whatever reason, this phone doesn't. So let me show you how to get to it. What we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Advanced Features. From here, go to Motions and Gestures. And in this menu, we're going to toggle on two different things. First of all, double tap to turn on screen, and second of all, double tap to turn off screen. So now, if we go back to the home screen, if you double tap any blank spot on the home screen, it's going to turn it off. And if you double tap the screen while it's off, it's going to turn back on. Obviously, this is really not like a life-changing feature or anything, but again, a lot of phones do have it on by default, and this phone of course does not. So if you're coming from a phone that does have that feature automatically enabled, and you're wondering why this phone doesn't do it, just keep in mind the feature is there. You're just gonna have to go to the settings to enable it yourself. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to show and hide your battery percentage on the status bar. So as you can see here, the battery percentage is currently up there. It is going to be here by default, but if you want to make your status bar look a little bit more minimalistic, you can actually get rid of it. So to do this, what you're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to where it says Battery and Device Care. So right here, from this menu, go to Battery, go to More Battery Settings at the bottom. And from here, as you can see, battery percentage again is currently on, and it will probably be on by default when you first get the phone, so toggle it off. And as you can see, the battery percentage is no longer on the status bar. Now, one thing I do want to point out here is that even if you don't have the battery percentage up here, if you pull it on the shade like this, it's still going to be there anyway. So if you do want your status bar to look as minimalistic as possible, but you still want to know your battery percentage from time to time, this is definitely a nice compromise. The next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called finger sensor gestures. Now, I'm going to be honest here, I'm not really a huge fan of this feature. I feel like it's kind of annoying and I always just activate it by accident, but since the phone does have it and everyone's preferences are going to be a little different, I figured I might as well show you how to enable it. So what we're going to do is go to Settings. From this menu, go to Advanced Features. From here, go to Motions and Gestures. From this menu, go to Finger Sensor Gestures. Toggle it on. And now, if you swipe down on your fingerprint scanner, it's basically going to pull down your shade. And if you swipe up, it's going to close it. So again, I'm not really a huge fan of this feature, but definitely if you want a convenient way to access your notifications and stuff like that, then I see how some people could find it useful. The last thing I'm going to show you is a feature called Adaptive Brightness. As the name suggests, basically what this is going to do is adjust the brightness of your display based on your environment. So if you're outside in the sun, for example, it's going to brighten everything. But if you're in a darker setting where you don't need it as bright, it's going to dim the display, and this is going to save battery and make it a little bit easier on your eyes. So to get to this feature, what we're going to do is go to Settings. From here, go to Display. And as you can see, adaptive brightness is right here. Once you toggle it on, it's automatically going to adjust. But this concludes my tips and tricks video for the Samsung Galaxy A23 5G. Again, if you want to learn more about this phone, I will be linking to several other videos about it in the description, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and my favorite accessories for it. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipis Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.